This photo, that photo, and these photos were shot with the Sony 35mm 1.4 G Master lens. I cannot believe that I never got this lens when it first came out, and this lens has been out for a while now. And when I used the lens for the very first time with my Sony A7S III, I remember just being blown away at how beautiful the footage looked. There's something about the 35mm focal length and shooting at f1.4 that give it a very unique look. And when I got the Sony A7C Mark II, I wanted to get a companion prime lens that went along with my 16-25 G lens. Figured it'd be a good combo to have a wide lens to vlog with and a prime lens to take photos with. And that's when I remembered how much I loved the Sony 35 1.4 G Master lens, and so I got it. Can't believe it took me this long to get this lens. Now, there's so many good things about this lens to talk about, especially with these photos over here. There are a few flaws that I found with this lens. I'll talk about that later. But first, let's talk about the pros and how well this lens fits with the A7C Mark II. Like right now, the lens attached to my camera is the Sony 16-25 G lens. I'm gonna put it side by side, but the 35mm is pretty much the same size and weight as the 16-25. And now that the A7C Mark II is my main camera, I feel like smaller lenses are the way to go. Like, I love my bigger lenses, like my 16-35 G Master Mark II, my 24-70 G Master Mark II, my 70-200 G Master Mark II. But because of the smaller grip of the A7C, I feel like it's too front heavy and you can't really hold it right per se. Like, it needs a lot of support. But with smaller lenses like the 16-25 and the 35mm 1.4, like, these lenses are made for camera bodies like this. Now, the grip on the A7C Mark II isn't that small. I mean, definitely bigger than the original A7C. I still much prefer the grip of the FX3 and the A7R5. Like, the more grip, the better, because if I'm gonna use heavy lenses like the 24-70 G Master Mark II or the 70-200mm G Master Mark II, then the grip on the camera body should be big enough to support that type of lens. That's like my theory right now. Like, the grip size of your camera body should match the size and weight of the lens that you're attaching. Nonetheless, the Sony 35 1.4 G Master lens is such a perfect prime lens for a camera body like the A7C Mark II. All right, I'm gonna segue for a second and talk about the video quality when using the Sony 35 1.4 G Master. And there's just something about the 35mm focal length when shooting at f1.4 that makes footage like this look really cinematic and, dare I say, magical. Like, when you're about 3 to 4 feet away from the subject, the background just blurs in such a lovely way and really makes the foreground pop. And I'm not saying like the more blurry the background is, the more cinematic. No, that's not what I'm saying at all, but the quality of the background, or bokeh as they say, just gives the 35mm focal length such a distinct look when shooting at f1.4. All right, real quick, let's go ahead and talk about the lens itself, and I don't want to get too technical. I kind of want to focus on my user experience with the lens, but real quick, has a nice smooth focus ring, has the aperture ring, which is declickable, of course has the autofocus manual focus switch, as well as a multi-function button, which you can assign whatever function you want. I do shoot at f1.4 a lot, and so the ND filter that I've been using is from Polar Pro. This is the new one. This is the one with the circular polarizer in it. Ugh, hold on, I like the Polar Pro lens caps, but I also don't like it because the actual filters get stuck in it. Okay, there we go. And so yeah, so that's the filter that I use. And if you do have a lens like this where it has a fast aperture, I highly suggest getting a variable ND filter. Now, as much as I love this lens so much, there are a couple things that I'm not a big fan of. The first one is the price. Like, I feel like this lens is a little bit overpriced. In fact, I think a lot of G Master lenses are overpriced. If it was just $100 cheaper or even $200 cheaper, it would be so competitive to third-party lenses like the Sigma 35 1.4 Art. Also, there is a lot of focus breathing on this lens, like a lot. And if you want to see what that looks like, here's what it looks like. You just see the edges of the frame breathe in and out, and it just doesn't look natural. And that's totally fine for photos because you're taking stills, but when you're filming an interview and you want to rack focus, it's just, this is not gonna look good. Fortunately, with the A7C Mark II, you have a feature called breathing compensation, where it crops in on the shot to avoid the edges of focus breathing, so that's cool. But if you have a Sony camera that does not support focus breathing compensation, then yeah, you're kind of screwed. All right, so I'm gonna show you how breathing compensation works with the 35 1.4 G Master. I don't have the breathing compensation feature turned on with the A7C, and so we're just gonna manually rack focus, starting with the foreground. There we go. Now I'm gonna tap on the background. And notice on the edges that it kind of just breathes in and out. Like it looks like the viewing angle kind of changes. And it just doesn't look very smooth. And so I'm going to turn on breathing compensation just to show you the difference. All right, so now I have breathing compensation turned on the A7C Mark II. And as you can see, it's a little bit cropped in, but the transition from the focus in the foreground to the background is going to be a lot smoother. So right now, we are focused on the background. And on my screen, I'm just going to tap to focus on the background. And look at that. It looks way smoother than rack focusing without breathing compensation turned on. Now I kind of want to show you a live demonstration of how cool the 35 1.4G Master is, but before I do, let's go ahead and talk about today's sponsor, Found. Now if you're a photographer and filmmaker like me, chances are you send invoices to your clients. Well, with Found, it's not only a business banking solution, but it's also a platform where you can send invoices as well. It's so cool because it just simplifies the entire process, not only with your business banking, but also keeping track of your clients' payments. And if you're just like me, like totally focusing on creating content and just finishing the job, then you kind of want a simple solution to handle your finances. If you do sign up with Found, you get your own business debit card, which is really cool. And bonus, one of my favorite features with Found is that it helps you sort out your taxes at the end of the year. It's been working out for me so far, and so if you want to check it out for yourself, the link will be down in the video description below. And when you do sign up, I do get a commission, which helps support the channel. But yeah, so far, it's been pretty awesome for me. All right, going back to the video, let's go ahead and give you a live demonstration of the Sony 35 1.4 G Master. All right, so I'm just gonna film this, and I'll be using this lens cap as my subject, and I'm gonna hold it right in front of my lens. And then right there, just look how creamy that background is and how sharp the image looks so cool. And without it, you see my background is a bit busy, but when I hold up the lens cap, like, oh my gosh, it looks so good. All right, and now let's take a photo. Let's go over here. I'm gonna shoot towards my monitor. I'm gonna hold up the lens again and look at that. Oh my gosh, like, wow. Like, look at that. Like, that is just real nice. The background blur is just so creamy. I love it. All right, let's take a photo. Now that was a lazy example, but go back to the photos that I shot with this lens and just see for yourself. And I know that Sigma now has the Sony E-mount version of the 35 1.4, but I feel like that lens is just a little bit too big for my liking. The Sony version, just right, especially with a camera body like the A7C Mark II. And so if you're looking for a sweet prime lens and you have a small camera body like the A7C Mark II, then definitely check it out, rent it at the very least, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's such a great lens. But that, my friends, is the video and why I got the Sony 35mm 1.4 G Master lens. I wonder if they'll make a Mark II pretty soon.